We are going live. What's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hooksets Are Free. Hope you guys are having a great day, great night, whenever it is that you're watching this video. It is about 9:15 p.m. here on Tuesday night, January 3rd, 2023. So it's a little bit late here in the evening, a couple minutes later than normal for me. And it is the new year. This is my first video, first live stream of 2023. So hope you all are doing well. Happy New Year to you. Um, and thank you for the support. Hope you all are doing well and staying warm. It's been a wild last couple of weeks with the cold fronts that we've had really across the country. So kind of crazy. What's up, Frank? Frank's not in the country. Frank is north in Canada. Hope you're doing well, Frank. Good evening to you. Hopefully my video is a little bit blurred out so you didn't just see my address on there, but I'm going to give people just a minute or two to hop in here before I go ahead and unbox this rod for you. And I apologize for a little bit of the background noise here. If you can hear that, my wife is upstairs showering right now, getting ready for bed. So sorry about that. Daniel T in the house. What's up, Daniel? How are you doing tonight, man? Good to see you. Happy New Year. I have got my BFS rod in here finally. So get to pair them up, which has been kind of a long time coming, it feels like, for me. I felt a little bit that way about some of my swim bait setups, right? And so feels good to kind of round out the arsenal a little bit. I'll show you kind of what I'm looking at in terms of my setups that are new for me. You know, I'm pretty excited because this year I'm going to be throwing my mid-size swim baits on my Dobbins Fury 795 and my Daiwa Tatula 200. So in my opinion, this is a very light, solid setup for medium to true medium-sized swim baits, right? The 795 is rated for 1 to 5 ounces, but really its sweet spot is in that like 3-ounce range. And so I knew that eventually I was going to need to step up and go to something like this. And I did late this past off season and got the St. Croix Bass X swim bait rod. And this guy handles lures a bit heavier. This is a 710 extra heavy and handles baits 4 to 8 ounces. So this is that Savage Gear Magnum Shine Glide. I think it's like 4.5 ounces, but this bait should handle, or this setup should handle baits a little bit better in the, 5, 6, 7 ounce range. And so on this, I've got a Shimano Tranx 300. So I'm excited to kind of finally, over a number of years, refine some of my setups that are on the extreme ends of the spectrum, right? So first are these swim bait setups. Second is the opposite end of the spectrum in this guy right here. So you guys saw that a month or two ago, I purchased this reel right here on Asian Fishing Portal or something of the sort. This is the Shimano SLX BFS reel. So I'm going to pair it up on this rod in a second, and you're going to see just how well it pairs up. I mean, I am excited. So we'll pop this open in 1 second, but I see Frank just said, you can show me your address, Tyler. I'm not motivated enough nor financially solvent enough to show up at your place. Well, I wouldn't mind you showing up at my house, Frank. That would be super fun. You would be welcome to stay at my house, all right? You guys are funny, Frankie and Danny. My boys. All right, so let's, as always, I've got 3 other rod tubes sitting right here on the other side of this cabinet deal. I opened one not that long ago, and we're going to go for another right now, all right? Daniel, look what we still got here from the last stream, my man. This is actually what you need for opening a rod tube, because usually these things are like way over taped. Holy moly. That's also how you cut off your toes. And I almost just did that. Yikes. All right, so my guess is, oh no, she's gonna release, maybe? Please be in one piece. Please be in one piece. Wow, that is a limber rod. Okay. Very limber. Four rod tubes standing up next to each other. Okay. So let's try to be careful here. This is wrapped well, which I am happy about. But I also don't quite know how to get in. This is one of those situations where you can't see the tape, and I'm a little nervous. Don't want to damage anything. And boy, this feels very light. I wish Adam Odin was in the house right now, because he's been talking so much about ultralight recently in our group chat on Instagram. And I don't know if he's just got the bug right now or what, but I wish he could be seeing this, because this is exactly why I got this set up. Good Lord. Come on, guys. Let me in. We're so close. Ho, ho, ho. Okay. Oh, yeah, baby. Here we go. Here we go. We're in. Or we're out, however you might say it. This right here is the Dobbins Sierra and this is a short one, okay? This is the 6'5", 6'5", ultra finesse casting. So they did not have all of the lengths available, but I don't know how much longer I would have gone. I think 7 foot is a little bit long for this situation. So if we're being honest, let me know what your guys' opinions are on ultralight fishing. Do you go with a short rod or do you go with a long rod? Because I will not accept a medium length rod as an acceptable answer. I find that either you're fishing open water and you want a long rod to be able to get extra long casting distance, or you're fishing tighter water and you need accuracy where you want a shorter rod. But let's not pretend like you guys are fishing ultralight and wanting a middle of the road size rod most of the time. It's either going to be short or it's going to be long. And so in this situation, I decided to go short. One, because of availability, but two, because I envision myself using this in situations opposite to fly fishing. Okay, so here is the setup right here, and boy, does it look fantastic. I'll say that the reel is not as blue as you would think. It's really just those accents on the handle and on the side plate here, but those match up perfectly with the blue on the rod here. And yeah, I'm a little bit of a nut about colors matching and everything like that, but I will say that this setup in my hand feels super light and exactly what I wanted it to be. The SLX BFS reel has a clicking drag and a bunch of other fine tuning details on this thing that make it a fantastic reel. Now, this is a 6:3 to 1 gear ratio. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me see where I can show you. 6-speed gear ratio, which in my opinion, for a setup of this size is going to be most appropriate. I think a 7 or an 8 is absolutely too much. I think a 6 is right. This has a shallow spool, super shallow spool actually, and it's made to throw super lightweight lures. So 1/16 to 5/16 is the recommended lure rating on this rod. Can you see that? Ultra finesse. Okay. So this has a light action or a light power and a moderate action and an extra fast tip. So I will be throwing everything ultralight on this setup this upcoming year. And I'm super excited to try BFS. It's something that I've never gotten into. Um, I've always been fine with spinning gear, right? I think some people get into BFS because they think that, you know, it's going to be some sort of better alternative to spinning gear. And quite frankly, I've never seen it that way. It's just a different style, different technique, or way of presenting the bait. So you're going to get perhaps a little bit less casting distance out of something like a bait caster than you would out of a spinning setup, but you'll get a little bit more accuracy and versatility in what you can do with the setup. So something like this might allow you to make more pinpoint casts, skip things into tricky areas where might be a little more challenging to do that with a spinning setup. So I have gotten really into light spinning gear over the last handful of years. It's kind of always been my wheelhouse being a trout fisherman, but um, I have taken really well to ultralight fishing for panfish and for trout on spinning setups. And like I said, I usually prefer either like a 6'6" or like a 9-foot rod. Not a whole lot in the middle when it comes to ultralight fishing. I'm either fishing small bodies of water where I don't need the long distance, or I'm fishing big bodies of water or big open stretches where I want maximum casting distance. So that is my opinion. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I'm going to read these comments right now. Looks like we've got Jermaine in the house. Mainstream Fishing, how you doing? Good to see you. Happy New Year, Jermaine. Did I miss any other comments? Daniel says it's funny we got Brendan, which is go big or go home, and then complete opposite Adam, who likes the small baits. Yeah, no, I like that variety though. Quite honestly, I would probably be more turned off if the group chat was only talking about big baits the entire time. So I like the opposite switch up. Frank, you're right, dude. Trout fish on the fly. So I probably won't be throwing too many flies on this setup. And I wish Adam was here for this reason. but we can talk about a lot of these lures. The lightest thing that I will probably throw, and I still prefer this on spinning gear, so I'm curious to know if this is a technique that I will incorporate with BFS, but that is the old float and fly. Okay, so this is like the Spro Fat Fly, for example, in the 1/16 ounce. This is a very small jig. Okay, they come two to a pack, but this guy's little. And you throw this under a float. So you're going to throw a bobber, and then this guy is going to sit underneath it. And it's got a vertical line tie, and this is just a hair jig. Probably on a size 1 hook, if I had to guess. So little Ned rig size offering, probably a 2.5-inch size bait. From end to end. So this is about as small as I will go and as subtle as I will go on a BFS setup. But usually I'm going to go to more moving baits. Now, of course, there is top water, right? So like we've talked about before, there are a few specific top water baits that I like to throw that are in this ultralight class. One of them's the Rapala Ultralight Popper 04, I believe it is. Yep. And then this is the Rebel Pop R in the junior or the baby size. This is like a 1/8 ounce size popper. So both of these are very small size poppers, just like 1.5 to 2 inches, and about a 1/8 in weight. But then other than that, I'm throwing the other top waters, and we talked about this recently, are going to be wake baits, specifically the Rebel Crick Hopper. This is a go-to bait for me, especially for trout, but also for panfish and for bass. Awesome on top of the water. You can also throw something like a floating jerk bait, like these Yozuri pins minnows. Okay, this is just like a 2-inch long, probably a 1/8 ounce jerk bait. These are like $5 a pop, and they're awesome. They make these in really small sizes, and then they get a little bit bigger as you step up. So I like them in this smallest size that is either an 1/8 or a 1/16. I'm not 100% sure, but these are floating jerk baits. So you can work these slow on top and let them float back up. Another ultra small jerk bait that I like is the Rapala X-Wrap in its absolute smallest size. So this is I don't know if it's even labeled, but I think it's also a size 4. But this is the X-Wrap in its smallest size. So I throw those guys, and then I throw a bunch of other sinking jerk baits made more so for current. So like the Rebel Countdown minnows and the Rapala Countdown. I was showing you the Rapalas, but the Rebels are in here as well. Here's a couple of them. Rebel Countdowns are really good, but they're kind of a fast sink, if we're being honest. And then in the jerkbait realm, I've talked about this a lot, but this guy right here, or really any of these, they're falling all over the place. This is the Dynamic Lures HD Trout, and this is my favorite ultralight and sinking jerkbait. Very, very good bait. It over the years has been my number one producer for ultralight jerkbait fishing. I also throw the Husky jerk and the Rapala original floating minnow. And then there's a couple of other crankbaits that I throw. Sadie, come here. What's going on, baby? Did you talk to Mama? Is she in the shower? Hmm? All right, give me a big hug. Give me a hug. Mama should be fine. You need to get back on shit. Sorry about that, guys. Frank says he's getting another 1,000 reel, and he's been asking about tiny wake baits. Yeah, I was going to tell him a little bit about tiny wake baits, but I did see that as well. Daniel, what are you talking about, man? You're talking about the grip here? I'm just saying this is a very light rod, a short rod that is designed to be thrown with lures super light. So I'm not saying there's anything ergonomically superior about this rod. I'm not saying it's the most comfortable thing I've ever felt in my life, but I am very excited and very confident in being able to throw a bait casting setup to throw ultralight finesse lures, because just like most people, I've always put finesse fishing into a box, into a category that if it's under, say, a quarter ounce, I'm throwing it on a spinning rod. If it's a quarter ounce, I'm like right at that tipping point where I can make do with a couple of my setups that are dialed in and have lighter line on them. But typically speaking, I'm just going to go down to a spinning setup when I'm throwing something lighter or that I want extra casting distance out of. Going to throw that on something like light braid to a leader to get extra casting distance. But something like this for close quarters fishing is going to be right up my alley. I do fish a lot of small bodies of water and specific spots and tight areas. So there's definitely going to be some play for a setup like this, and it's going to get work from me right away. So I do plan to spool it up with straight 4-pound Seagar Invisex. I might change my mind on that, but just looking at the size of the guides on this rod, I don't know if you guys can see based on the video here. I could get any further out than that. You can see a couple guides. These are not quite micro guides, but they kind of are. So I'm not super confident about a knot, one extra knot going through the guides each and every cast. I've just had pretty bad luck over the years with braid messing up my guides. And so over time, I've just learned to kind of not fiddle around quite as much. And over the last season or two, I've started doing straight fluorocarbon on a bunch more setups than I did in the past, where I used to prefer braid to a leader because, I could take a little bit more of an approach like, Mike from one rod, one reel, and I can just switch up the leader material depending on what I'm throwing, and just use braid for kind of everything. But I've changed my mind on that a little bit over time. Oh, looks like we got Matt in the house. Sorry, Matt, I'm so late to greet you, man. But good to see you in here. Hope you're doing well. Happy New Year, Matt. Daniel, you're right that light gear usually does make the fight more fun. Um, that's not really the reason that I'm doing this so much as it is just variety and a challenge and just the excitement of doing it differently, right? I already know what I can do with a spinning rod and reel. And I'm not saying I'm a wizard by any means. I'm not, but I do prefer bait casting over spinning. I'm not the type of guy who thinks that spinning gear is sissy by any means, um, because I'm sure those same people still think that BFS is sissy. So who cares? That's not me. It's just that um, I want to be able to throw super light stuff on a bait caster. That sounds cool to me. Um, and I haven't really thrown anything lighter than like 8 pound test on a bait caster ever. And usually 12 pound is like my lightest. So to go all the way down to throwing, 4 pound on a bait caster sounds super exciting to me. But Frank says I have a couple of those tiny Rapala poppers and love them. Yep, I hear you. Matt says the Lucky Craft Poco Crappy Popper is a great BFS popper. You mentioned that last time. I've heard about that bait. I think I even looked it up once, but haven't tried it yet. So it's the Poco Crappy Popper. You say the whole Crappy lineup is great, actually. Okay. Megabass X48 Acrobat isn't talked about much. I don't even know what bait that is, dude. Definitely a BFS jerkbait, and the die was Steez Shad 54 MR. Yeah, I don't know those baits, dude. The only ones that I've got that are kind of in that realm, um, and where in the world are they right now? I must have gone fishing with them not that long ago, but oh, there were like 3 different ultralight jerk baits that I picked up. The Megabass Great Hunting jerk baits, as well as a few others that are higher end, kind of like $15 a pop. But usually, I'm throwing baits that are in that like $3 to $10 range for ultralight fishing, and so um, I did see Adam Odin is in here. So, Adam, dude, since we're talking about some of these, dude, you tried the Bumblebug and you've had success on it? That's awesome. Well, the Bumblebug is a bigger bait than the Crick Hopper, right? So, you need to be throwing the Crick Hopper, and I think we've already established that. A number of people have mentioned it, and I know that you've been asking about ultralight wake baits. So you should know that this bait fits right into that category. And even though it might look very similar to the Bumble Bug, it has a little bit of a different action to it. And it has a very appealing wide wobble on the surface and then swimming action anywhere from 6 to 12 inches under the water. But I typically keep this thing up on the surface or barely subsurface. I am rarely cranking this thing down to its depth, which is no more than say 12 to 18 inches. But if you reel this thing too fast, it will blow out and run off to the side. So it has a very aggressive wide wobbling action, and there's something about it that drives the fish nuts. So you need to be using the Rebel Crick Hopper. um, I like it in yellow. I like it in gold a lot. This gold color is super underrated, and then they make it in fire tiger and a bunch of other colors. But the Rebel Crick Hopper is definitely underrated. And another one that is kind of in the same category-ish is the Strike King Bitsy Minnow. Okay, this is a square bill crankbait that only dives like 2 feet, maybe. Usually not even quite that much. You'll see this one's been hung up before, has a bent treble hook. But this bait dives somewhere in the ballpark of 1 to 2.5 feet. It's got a little bit of a rattle inside it. Tiny treble hooks. This is a very small bait. It's roughly the same size as the Rebel Crick Hopper. Show you in comparison. And I'm gonna lose all the baits. Okay, so Strike King Bitsy Minnow, underrated bait. Also a little bit speed sensitive. Needs to be fished kind of slow, but is a really good bait subsurface that is a tiny presentation. And then I've got 2 or 3 more really lipless crankbaits you need to get on. I'm not sure if you're throwing the tiny trap. This is the Bill Lewis rattle trap in the tiny size. I believe it's a 1/8 ounce version, and it is same proportion, same everything, just in a absolutely tiny little package. And then the Cordell Super Spot Cotton Cordell, they make a tiny spot. I forget exactly what it's called, but this is a 1/8 ounce lipless crankbait. And then lastly, the where'd you go? Disappeared on me right now, but the Euro Tackle Z Viber, I believe it's called, is a it's half blade bait, half lipless crankbait, and I do really like that one too. I've got it just stashed in a different box. It is not accessible at the moment, so I'll have to show that to you guys upcoming soon. But that Euro Tackle Z Vibe, I believe it's called Z Viber, Z Vibe. I'm not quite sure, but we'll see here. Oh, Daniel says, I just like longer rod length behind the handle, but most light setups are shorter like that behind the reel. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Short behind the reel. Well, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but that's all right. Losing big fish in the house. What's up, dude? How you doing tonight? Matt says, waking that little J-boy crank, Adam, should get bit for you with random twitches in the retrieve. I don't know what you're saying. Dude, Adam, every hit that you had on the Bumblebug was little twitches and then letting it sit for about 30 seconds. Yeah, I've noticed that the letting it sit is a huge deal, right? You'll probably get bit on a straight retrieve like 20% of the time. But I swear, over 50% of the time, it's when the bait is dead still. So either shortly after the cast, when you just let it sit and settle before you start the retrieve, or on the retrieve when you kill it and let it float back up and settle, or just on twitches or slight pulls of the reel to make the bait do a little something and then stop. Imitating a bug that is struggling on the surface of the water is probably the most effective thing that you can do. In just letting the bait sit and then just slow pull, just watch that bait kind of shimmy on the surface and then stop. it can be super deadly. So I'm not surprised to hear that, Adam, but I'm happy to hear it nonetheless. You said you also found that Rebel made wake baits from their teeny R crank. Um, yeah, I'm not surprised. The teeny R, I don't know if I've got any of the teeny R wake baits. I mean, this is the craw, um, the wee craw R, the tiny craw. Also in a little bit of a wake bait version, but I'm not sure if that's the bait that you're talking about or what. Regardless, we'll pick up this conversation again moving forward. But I'm also excited to throw a ton of different soft plastic baits. Um, I think even something like what we talked about last stream in the Okashira screwhead on the Spark Shad is probably going to be a little bit too heavy for a BFS setup, right? Um, and I think this is the lightest jig head at like either a 1/16 or a 1/8, but then you add the soft plastic to it, and I think the weight's going to be too much. So we're talking strictly very light soft plastic presentations, from super light drop shots to weightless presentations to wacky rigs and super light Texas rigs. So it'll be fun to kind of fiddle around with ultralight uh, soft plastics that are not just traditional, like throwing a trout magnet under a bomber, right? And we already talked about throwing a float and fly technique. I may or may not do that on this, but I will probably go to something, like the new micro Ned rig, right? So the tiny little finesse version of the Ned rig on some of these new soft plastics that they've put out that are really made to be multi-species, and crappie baits and things like that. So I think that these will be very reasonable presentations for me to be throwing on a setup like this, which just feels weird to say and to look at because this is small, I mean, look, I don't know what that thing weighs, probably less than an eighth of an ounce. So, um, regardless, I never would have imagined until say last year when I seriously considered a BFS setup that I'd be throwing stuff this small, let alone like a full size Ned rig or a popper or a lot of the other things that I throw on a spinning setup, to be using that on a bait caster, or BFS setup. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But sorry, my daughter is back down here again. Give me 1 second. All right. My bad, gentlemen. Sorry about that, guys. All right, I'm back. Let me catch up on the comments. Micro Z Viber is ridiculously small, says Frank. Yeah, I don't even know if it's the micro Z Viber that I'm talking about. I'm talking about more like the 1/8 ounce size. Maybe it's not the micro, but the Z Viber I do have, and like I've got it in a few different colors. Adam says, I need to get the Z-Man swimming fries. Is that this guy right here? The shad fries? I don't know what they call these. But is this the one that you're talking about with the paddle tail? I mean, looks like a good bait, but I don't know which one I'm most excited about in the lineup of Z-Man micro baits. But hey, one thing that I am kind of excited about that was recently announced or released or what have you is the partnership between Hog Farmer and Missile Baits. So Missile Baits is now going to be selling the Spunk Shad under their name as well. So they've partnered up with Hog Farmer, and I don't know if Hog Farmer is going to be selling Missile Baits, especially under their name, or if it's just the other way around. But I know that Missile is now either pouring or for sure selling the Spunk Shad, and they're packaging it, putting it in Missile Baits packaging and calling it the Missile Baits Spunk Shad. So same sizes, mostly same colors, maybe a couple different colors offered by Missile that are not offered by Hog Farmer, but same price, same sizes, same everything. So kind of an interesting marketing play, because you guys know that I had been holding off on trying the Spunk Shad for a long time. Just picked these up like a couple months ago. Haven't even fished them yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about that bait. It's essentially just a Kitech 3.8 in terms of body, but with a straight tail instead of a paddle tail. So you get that round body, little bit flatter on the top with the Spunk Shad than on the Kitech, but very similar bait in terms of construction until about right here. And then instead of transitioning to a paddle tail, you transition to a straight tail. So pretty sweet. Great reputation for being an awesome chatterbait trailer, and having a lot of body and a nice subtle straight tail kicking action. So I'm excited about the Spunk Shad, but also that Missile's now pouring them. So I don't know if you guys heard about that. Oh, we got Carl Ferg in the house. What's up, Carl? Happy New Year to you as well. Adam says, I just ordered the micro ticklers. Yeah, the ticklers is a good one for sure. That one to me looked like a winner straight out of the gate. It is exactly what you would think it is, in just being a downsized version of the TRD ticklers. So really cool bait. And I actually thought the same of the micro TRD. I am pleasantly surprised or impressed with this bait. I mean, it's even more of a do nothing bait than the original. And that was a little bit mind blowing for me to come to realize, is that this bait is truly a do nothing soft plastic, just meant to sit on the bottom, stand up. It makes it that much more obvious when you're throwing baits this small than when they're twice as big or more, and they actually do have a little action on them, but are super subtle, right? The standard Ned rig does have some action, especially in comparison to the micro. And I got to say, this larvas actually does look pretty dang good. So for a bug bait imitator, red on red, I am not mad about that little guy right there. I mean, it's almost like this hook is too big. This reminds me of another bait that I've talked about before and I've had a lot of success on, but I don't think many people throw it. It is the Savage Gear. Um, what do they call it? The TPE Mayfly. Okay. So TPE is like their Elastec, stretchy, super durable material, but they make a mayfly imitation that looks kind of like that larva. It's got a lot of appendages and then long body and a forked tail, and it comes with a weighted hook built into it. It's an exposed hook, and so it's weighted. The bait does sink, but can be thrown by itself or under a float and does really well. And I recently noticed that you can take the weighted hook out and rig it on a hook of your own, something in the same size range of like a size 2, maybe a size 1 hook on there. And that is a really good bait. So, Adam, look into the Savage Gear TPE Mayfly. Maybe it's a 3D TPE Mayfly. I don't know. But chicken fried steak in the house. What's up, dude? How you doing? Happy New Year. Adam says it reminds me of the Yodo worm. I think you got that backwards. Okay. In terms of order of which came first. But you're right. It does look a lot like that Ketchko or whatever 10,000 fish Yodo worm. Very similar bait in being a chatterbait trailer. Really, more than anything, it's a straight tail bait. Can be thrown on either a chatterbait or a Sugin head, tremor head. What am I thinking of? Scrounger. Um, but also just a surprisingly decent bait in other situations too. Good on a spinner bait. Um, good on a swim jig. Good on just a straight up jig head as a little bit more of a subtle presentation. But you're not wrong, uh, Adam, that it's a similar profile. All right. Bruce says, does or has anyone in here used the V&M chopsticks? No. Um, don't know about that bait, but let me check it out real quick. V&M chopstick. Let's take a look. Dude, that's a stick bait. Why are we talking about a Senko? Um, no, I haven't tried the chopstick, and I don't care to. Um, what makes the chopstick different, dude, than a Senko or a Bass Pro Sticko or anything else? Why would we or should we try the chopsticks, Bruce? Because I don't really understand that, and I'm not a big fan of stick baits in the first place, right? You guys know that I don't like to throw a wacky rig. I don't even like to Texas rig a Senko or a stick bait. To me, it's not as fun. If I'm gonna do that, I'm probably gonna step up to something like the Z-Man Giant TRD or something like that. But even still, I don't really enjoy throwing stick baits. But that's just me, man. Matt says that Fish Lab Flutter Nymph looks good. Yeah, it does. I'm kind of tempted to try a couple of those new Fish Lab baits. That Flutter Nymph looks wild with all those appendages. I also think it looks good. I think it'll be good on a drop shot, good on a weightless rig, a few different ways of rigging. But Bruce says, looking for info on durability and action. I do my best to avoid buying useless crap. Well, probably don't buy that, dude. that would be me. Okay. As I said, I don't throw a lot of stick baits, but I don't think you need to have a lot of stick baits. I've kind of over time narrowed down to the Bass Pro Sticko, specifically in the 6-inch. So sure, you can throw a 4 or a 5-inch Senko, but you're going to be spending a ton of money and only going to be getting 1 or 2 fish per bait. The Bass Pro Sticko is more than twice as cheap as the Senko, and it has a very similar action in terms of fall rate and shimmy in comparison to other baits on the market. So you could throw a, what's the Yum Dinger, super slow fall rate. Um, you could throw some other baits that are skinnier and are going to have a faster or more aggressive shimmy to them. But quite frankly, a stick bait is a stick bait for the most part. The density of salt in the bait, the thickness of the bait, the fall rate are perhaps the most important things in a stick bait. But the Bass Pro Sticko is tough to beat in terms of durability, price, and action. I'll just say, the Yum Dinger is also great price and durability, but its action is so different. That thing has like no action and it falls really slow. So awesome for really skinny water or shallow water, or where you're just um, trying to target fish in a very tight place. Whereas the Senko is going to target fish. It's going to have a little bit more drawing power with its action. So fish being able to sense it and or see it from further away are going to notice and come over due to the action, not necessarily just the place that you're putting it or the fact that it's sitting right in front of their face. But we could talk about stick baits for longer than necessary, and it's not my favorite topic to discuss. So sorry about that. Chicken Fried Steak says, found me and my boy each a Z-Man Hellraiser at a local store yesterday. Jazzed to try them out. Yeah, dude, me too. I too am excited. What do you think about the bait? And were you as surprised as me at the size? And I think this bait is just a little bit smaller than I thought it would be, and that's a good thing mostly. Um, I think it's got good size hooks for the bait, and the hookup ratio should be good. I'm pretty excited about it. I didn't think I was going to be when it first came out. It's just such a weird bait, right? Um, the shape of the bait, the angle that it swims, the fact that there's a chatterbait blade on the back, um, rage blade on the back. It's weird, but it's compelling. I'll say that. So I'm excited too. Chicken Fried Steak says also snagged a pack of Yum warning shots, drop shot baits. Yeah, those look good for sure. I don't think I have any of those, but again, just like most Yum stuff, they are good for the price. Cheap and durable baits that generally are poured pretty well. It's just action on them can be a little bit iffy. Sometimes profile, sometimes action, but in general, Yum makes pretty good stuff. Adam says, Tyler, what size micro jigs did you go with? So when we're talking about micro jigs to throw on the Ned rig, are you talking about these jig heads? Because most of them I went with the smaller sizes where I could. I don't see much point in stepping up to a weight that is approximately the same as a full size Ned rig, and then just having the smaller hook on it. So in my eyes, a Ned rig is supposed to be as light as possible. And so I'm applying that same principle to the micro Ned rig, right? So I think I got the 164th, but it may be 132nd. I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay. Bruce, Texas rigs and wacky stick baits are what I've caught more than 90% on when it comes to soft plastics here. Caught one on a bandito bug and one on a speed craw. Okay. Well, fair enough, dude. I get it. Yeah. I feel for you, man. You got to mix it up a little bit though. You know, I don't know exactly what to tell you, but I think you need to fiddle around a little bit with different presentations. I mean, maybe you step it up and you go to something like a bellows gill this year, um, or a depths cover scat, or a Kitech swing impact fat. Anything like that. Uh, that's just going to be a little bit more interesting, have a little bit more action, um, maybe make you feel more confident as an angler. I'm just stick baits, man. If you're going to be throwing stick baits, then maybe switch up the worm that you're using and start throwing the Nico rig a little bit more this year, um, because the look is totally different. The hookup ratio is arguably better, and you're not going to hang up quite as much as you would with a wacky rig. So try a Nico rig this year. You can use the same worms that you would for a standard wacky rig, or even a Texas rig if you're using a Senko style bait. But usually you're going to want one that's got just a little bit more uh, buoyancy, less salt content to it. It's going to stand up a little bit more. Use a nail weight in the nose of the bait, and then use that same wacky style, or a little bit more of a round bend for a Nico style presentation. And I would recommend that. But sorry, man, I feel for you, and also I am just sorry and sad that you're catching 90% of your fish, soft plastics wise, on a stick bait. Carl says, designed by Jason Christie, should do okay. Grabbed a Hellraiser 2. Haven't tried it yet. What is designed by Jason Christie? I mean, most of the Yum baits, but what are you talking about here? Oh, the Yum warning shots, probably. I assume you're talking about. I don't know. Chicken fried steak, tad smaller than I thought, but a 5/8 ounce on frogs. What? Oh, okay. So you're talking about the Hellraiser. It is a trip, man. Weird bait. It's a tad smaller than I thought too. Just it's skinnier and it's a little shorter than I thought it would be. But in my mind, that's not a bad thing because this front hook is like a legit size 2. It's a pretty big hook. The rear hook is a little bit smaller than the front hook, but yeah, wild bait. Daniel says Kitech Swing Impact Fat was my best bait of the year. Nice, dude. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of years early on where it was my number one bait by a long shot. There's a reason that I made a video a number of years ago on freaking cutting up your swim baits, your clamshells. This was a silly video, but to cut up your clamshells so that they can fit in a box. So instead of carrying around a whole bunch of clamshells all the time, you've got little sections of clamshell inside your 36 or 3700 size box, and the tails don't get messed up. So how cool is that? You know, a lot of people throw Kitex a lot, and guess what they do? They just toss them straight in their boxes, and those tails get twisted up so fast. Yeah, of course, you could fit a ton of swim baits in here if you were just loading them in each of these sections, right? So in this box right now, I've only got 2, 4, 6, 9, 13, 17, 23, you know, like 30 Kitex, right? So this is probably 6 clamshells worth fit into one 3700 size flambeau box. And so for me, there was a time, there was a year or two where literally Kitex were like what I was throwing the vast majority of the time. And so I would carry a full box of Kitex on me so that I could have kind of a little bit in every color and every size. So I would carry from, you know, a 3.3 inch size. This is in June bug, up to like a 5.8 inch size in like a Tennessee shad. And so, yeah, 3.3, 3.8, 4.8, and 5.8 is mostly what I like to throw and what I would carry. But Kitex were kind of my bread and butter for a couple of years, kind of like chatterbaits were uh, last year and the year before, or say 2 years prior to this past year. But yeah, it's a dang good bait, dude. I hear you, Daniel. Bruce says cutting the clamshells up is a damn good idea. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I don't know. It feels like a dumb idea in retrospect, but depending on um, where you're fishing and the room that you have, this keeps the clamshells in better shape and keeps the swim baits in better shape than the clamshells themselves do. So, yeah, that was an idea I had a number of years ago. Created a video like 3 years ago on that, but glad to hear that a couple of you guys like the idea. That's funny. Matt says power wigglers are what I mainly use. We know, dude. We know. But you're definitely looking forward to trying those hide up staggers and the one up shad, the predecessor to the Gambler Easy swimmer. Okay, yeah, the Gambler Easy. I still don't know what to think. Right, like I really don't like the way these baits are stored. Okay, so that's the little easy. This is the big easy. Um, well, that's just the opposite of a clamshell. All right, that's not good. And so every single time you pull a bait out of the pack, look at that tail. That's a problem in my book. I mean, sure, if you're showing it from the side, nobody knows. But do the fish notice if they're swimming behind it? If this is swimming toward them? Probably the thing's going to swim a little bit different. So that bothers me and is a big reason that I haven't fallen in love with these baits. But I knew that was going to be the case since before I even tried them. So I don't know why I've picked these up. Could probably get rid of them. All the packages like that are smashed, and that bothers me. You know, the swim bait for me that kind of was the winner this year is probably this dude right here, the Yum Scottsboro swim bait. was a sneaky little dude. Really good bait that I didn't have super high expectations for, honestly, but it definitely impressed me. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I first picked them up, and then I tried them and immediately figured it out. And I'll say I am definitely impressed with these baits. So they're not quite hand poured like the Scottsboro tackle swim baits, and these are a little bit taller in profile, but boy, do they swim so well. The consistency on the plastic is really nice. It's super soft. These baits swim true and have a great action on them and are just really good for the money. So, um, I don't know what else to say about them other than if you haven't tried them yet, you probably need to give them a fair shot because they're cheap and they're good. Um, that's all I can say. They're new as of last year. I tried them last year and I immediately picked up more packs, and I'm going to keep throwing them. So that's how that goes. Oh, interesting. So Matt says that the one up shads come in clamshells where the gamblers don't. I wonder why Gambler hasn't done that. Maybe it's just cost of packaging and things like that. They've already got such a cult following of people who don't care about the tails being bent up, I suppose. Um, Perforated clamshell, says Adam. Yeah, see, that's not a bad idea at all. In fact, there are some companies that already do that. Um, like this is probably the best example that I have for you is the Gancraft Bariki Shad. They make this so that you can literally just fold and rip this down the middle. You can It's perforated on top, so you can fold and rip this off, and then furthermore, you can fold and rip these in half so that you just carry a 2-pack with you. And on top of that, they've made the clamshell so that you can have one bait rigged inside the clamshell with an EWG a weighted hook on there. So Gancraft is on it with the perforated edges already, perforated on top, perforated down the middle. And that right there is a genius idea that more people need to be doing. You're absolutely right. Oh, of course, there, Matt just had already said the Bariki Shads from Gancraft. Yep. Berkeley, Japan makes the power wigglers, Adam. Sorry, I'm behind on the comments. Of course, you guys are all already on it. My bad, guys. Yeah, Daniel. Okay, you said you ordered yours, but you can now buy the Yum Scottsboro swim baits at Walmart. I didn't know that. My Walmarts don't carry them, but that's pretty cool. And they're great baits. Pretty affordable too. And I think they're same price or cheaper than Kitex, um, and they're a little bit different. Yeah, we all already know that Matt is dangerously obsessed with JDM as well as Berkeley, Japan. And yeah, so if ever in doubt, if you're wondering what a bait is or where a bait comes from that Matt's talking about, just assume that it's from Japan. Um, okay. I feel like there was one or two other things that I wanted to talk about tonight that are not crossing my mind right now. I am about to place an order from Tackle Warehouse because I've got a few things that I do want to purchase before the sales turn off in 24 hours from now. I think the morning of the 5th or something like that, the sale goes off. So I've got my eye on a few things from Tackle Warehouse. This go around, I literally tonight, I just very quickly ordered this rod the other day, late last week, when I saw that they were running the promo for Rico Blems. They were offering like 3 for free if you spent over $50 or something like that. I don't know exactly what the deal was, but that's the reason that I quickly pulled the trigger on this rod, is to get 3 free Ricos. And I don't know where those are in the mail right now. It came in a separate package, but I'll show you those when I get them. So, Rico Blems means that there was some sort of blemish that happened during the painting process, during the production process, that made them not quite worthy of selling at retail. So, Tackle Warehouse does sell those, and they sell well during Black Friday and the holidays, but for whatever reason, they must have had extras this year, because they ran a promo last week that was um, spend X number of dollars and get 3 free Rico Blems. So I did that. Adam says, my Walmart just started carrying Z-Man. I was surprised to walk in and see minnows and diesel minnows, also some jig heads. Nice, dude. Yeah, what you want with the minnows is the trout eye jig heads specifically, okay? The trout eye jig heads are the ones that fit on the minnows best, and they're like a match made in heaven, okay? I feel like I've got them sitting right here, so that's why I just stood up to look. But I must be wrong. All right. Well, regardless, the trout eye jig head is just a downsized version of this guy right here. This is the redfish eye jig head, which is designed to go on the 4-inch and 5-inch diesel minnows. So the trout eye jig head is just a downsized version with a smaller hook and smaller weights that is designed for the 3-inch minnows. Okay, and it's a perfect fit. But I'll show you that this rigged on a 5-inch diesel minnows does work really well. Okay. And now this isn't the redfish eye jig head, because this is the chatterbait version. I forget what they call this this chatterbait, but let me show you what this puppy looks like rigged up on the 5-inch diesel minnows. And I mean, I've showed you guys before what that minnows looks like on the trout eye jig head, but you know that you've got to grab the collar or the chin of this bait and pull it up over that bait keeper. So here she is. Not a perfect rigging, but that will do for now. You'll notice that the length of hook is about right for the bait. I think this might fit a little bit better on the 4-inch than it does on the 5-inch, but I think this is a 4/0 hook, and it's about right. They made those jig heads, or Ice Strike made those jig heads to match up perfectly on these minnows and diesel minnows. So trout eye jig head is one that you're going to want for the 3-inch minnows. I wouldn't even fiddle around with other jig heads at all. They're not going to pair up quite as well. from a size standpoint, from an the way that it flushes up the jig head to the body of the swim bait, and then um, I don't know, the hook is solid on those things. I mean, they're made to be used for saltwater fish primarily, but they work tremendously well on freshwater fish as well. So Matt says, "Yo, Tyler, do you plan on trying one of those Spro KGB Chad Shads? I saw a swim video. It looks really good for a $60 bait. Definitely worth it. I think it's going to be the nicest glide you can get for the money." Um, yes, I definitely do plan to get it. I've been a little bit frustrated with how difficult they've been to acquire thus far. Um, it feels like it's been a little bit of a long wait, but at the same time, it's not like we can be out throwing them right now anyway. So um, the answer is yes. I'm going to jump on it quick, and I'm definitely going to get one, if not two of them straight out of the gate. And yes, Adam, your Walmart sells that weird mustad squid bait that shoots out ink. That is definitely a saltwater bait, but seems wild for sure. Don't get it. Matt says way better than the Arashi glide. I know that. Yeah, the Arashi glide. I'm not mad about. What's your problem with the Arashi glide? I think it's a little bit clunky, a little bit heavy for what it is, and perhaps not the smoothest glide. But what's, in your opinion, uh, why do you say, without even having fished the KGB Chad Shad, why are you so quick to say that it's going to be way better than the Arashi glide? Yeah, Adam, we did talk about that on the last stream. The new diesel jig heads, they look absolutely massive. Um, so yeah, I mean they could work just fine, but I think the redfish eye jig heads are probably still going to be my preference, especially for swimming through the water column. Right? I mean, I'm usually swimming a swim bait through the middle of the water column. Um, Very rarely am I throwing a swim bait, especially like a diesel minnows, slow and low on bottom. So I don't personally have any need for a 1 to 3 ounce jig head that's obviously going to be digging into the bottom. Um, that's a saltwater, heavy current type of situation. And that just doesn't fit my style of fishing. No way. Matt said Baitworks had some in stock. Pissed that I missed it, and in the perch color I wanted. Yeah, that perch color looks nasty for sure. You say, I think the stability and smoothness of the glide isn't that good. Yeah, see, that's what I thought you were going to say. The Chad Chad was very smooth, extremely stable for an AVS bait, can be used at a wide range of speeds. Yeah, so that makes a little bit more sense. Is that you get more versatility out of the bait, right? With a bait like the Arashi Glide, there's a sweet spot to it. So, um, I mean, that's true of a lot of big baits, especially glide baits, is that you have to get to know the bait and what it can do best and how to initiate those actions in the bait. And you have to put a lot of time into it. And so it's easy to come, I don't know, to jump to conclusions, if you will, on first impressions when it comes to a lot of different baits, not just swim baits, but especially swim baits. First thing you want to do is toss it out there and see it work. And if right away you don't like the way it looks, that's going to be a problem for you. Definitely a hurdle for you to get over and change your own mind that you were wrong and that you can figure out what the bait is meant to do and is capable of doing. Um, that's easier said than done, right? I think we all run into that situation on a regular basis of trying out a new bait that we were excited about or that has a great reputation, and then it just doesn't do what we thought it would do or what we want it to do, or we're not able to make it do what it's supposed to. And no matter what, those are all kind of an issue. Adam says, did you recommend the Z-Man redfish eye jig or the trout eye? So for the 3-inch minnows, it's the trout eye. Um, the bigger one is the redfish eye. That's the one that'll work on the 4-inch and the 5-inch diesel minnows. But the 3-inch minnows takes the trout eye jig head. Well, and again, Matt, that is personal preference. You say you're sure that the Arashi has its place, but you feel that the Ice Slide 185 is better, or the Gancraft jointed claw for the money. But if you can only afford an Arashi, it'll get the job done. Yeah, that I think that's fair, right? If we're looking at the whole range of glide baits and actions and a value for the money, how much better is the Arashi than the S waiver, in your opinion? You know, where do other cheapish glide baits fit into the equation for you? Where does the Savage Gear Shine Glide fit into the equation? Adam says, "Jump to conclusions." Remind me of the movie Office Space. That's funny. Yeah. Ralph says, "Tell me to go get a Corrado BFS." Do it, Tyler. Um, you know what, Ralph? Go get a Corrado BFS, or be like me and go get an SLX BFS from Asian Fishing Portal. Um, you can buy these internationally, but yeah, get a BFS setup, dude. Um, I'm doing it. I just did it. I'm excited. I'm gonna put it to work. As soon as I possibly can. It might be one of the first things that gets thrown for me when I've got open water, or even before I've got legit open water during the winter. I do typically go fly fishing a handful of times. As you guys know, I like to ski more than I do fly fish during the winter. If I'm outside in the cold, um, being one with nature, I skiing has just been a huge winter passion of mine forever. So, still will always be, but in comes fly fishing, and now maybe some BFS fishing on rivers and streams here in Colorado when fishing for trout in the wintertime. They tend to be more aggressive, and they fight better and are easier to catch in the cold water months than in the summer. Um, Trout just don't like warm water. Ralph, you've got a Major Craft Ben K67 and a Cast King Zephyr. Got it. Need to replace the reel. Makes all kind of racket. That's too bad. I didn't know that. And that makes me glad that I didn't go that route either, because for the last couple of years I've been considering the purchase, and yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm aware of that reel. I know a few people who have it, and so I was on the fence about it, right? And so that makes me happy. This was a reel that I hadn't heard a single thing about, but I already know it's going to be good. Um, I've got Corrados, I've got SLXs, and yeah, a BFS SLX is something that I'm excited about. It's got a click drag, and it was cheaper than the Corrado BFS, so I went with it. Not significantly cheaper, um, but I hope they bring this over to the U.S. In the next year or two. Matt says I'd say go with the larger, older S waiver over the Arashi. Why do you say older? You just mean the S waiver 200, or how is a new S waiver different than an old S waiver? Have they changed the construction of them? I didn't know about that. If they did, Ralph says it's a cool reel for 69 bucks and it works reliably and well. It's just not smooth. Okay, well that's fair. Um, for the price, I guess that's what you should expect, right? The Corrado and the SLX in the BFS versions are more than twice that. So I think I spent somewhere right around like 140 bucks for the SLX BFS version on Asian Fishing Portal. It's definitely not as cheap as like a standard SLX, um, but it is totally different than a standard SLX. All right, guys, we've been on here for about an hour and a half, and I'm running low on whiskey. So this might be our excuse, our reason to cut the stream short and get out of here for the rest of the night. I am working the next 4 days in a row, and do need to get to bed sometime shortly. But Matt says, nah, there was an OG model of the S waiver. It was weighted a tad differently, didn't sink as fast. Sort of like how you have newer Whopper ploppers. Yeah, the newer Whopper ploppers are way better than the older Whopper ploppers, if we're being honest. The ones that River to Sea makes. Um, Carl, you're right. Not the whiskey. Where's a refill? I need more. I mean, I'll hang out with you longer if you want to, but I might have to go get more whiskey. Yeah, how about that? I'll go run and grab the whiskey. You guys think of other things to ask, mention, talk about, whatever it is, and we'll hang out for like another 20 or 30 minutes. How about that? Frank says, I'm working now and I need free entertainment. All right, well, then I won't leave, dude. I'll be right back. Right back. Ya vengo. Aquí estoy. What's up? All right, so we got a little Heaven Hill bottled in bond. Not sure if you guys drink this, but it is fantastic. This is the kind of stuff that, like, a number of years ago was not allocated or all that difficult to find, but kind of like is the case with Buffalo Trace. These days, this is just harder to find. More places are making this limit one per customer and things like that. So, kind of funny, but a very good bourbon nonetheless. This is a 7-year bourbon bottled in bond, so it's right at like 100 proof, I believe. Yep, 100 proof, straight out of Kentucky. Heaven Hill makes bourbon for a lot of other distilleries, and they go way back. Good stuff. So cheers, everybody. Matt says the newer ploppers definitely function a bit better in weeds, way better than weeds, but the OG plopper did have a different noise. A little bit. You're right. Not necessarily on the surface of the water, but within the bait, the rattles definitely made a little bit of a difference. So I suppose you're right in that, but I definitely like the new design better with the tail going into the body a little bit to prevent the weeds from catching. Uh, Definitely better, in my opinion. Daniel says, I'm about to give in on holding out for a trolling motor and order some tackle. Haven't had that, but the cheap Heaven Hill is not great. Yeah, this is not quite the cheap Heaven Hill, um, but it's also not the super high end. This is, I want to say, like $60 a bottle, um, maybe even a little bit less. So not too shabby. Uh, Good price, good bourbon, 100 proof. I think for me is something that I look for. I don't play around with a lot of bourbons that are sitting in that like 80 to 90 proof range, unless I know that they are absolutely rock solid. I don't typically like to play with low content alcohol when it comes to bourbon. I like something that's a little bit fuller bodied and a little bit heavier and oakier, spicier, has more heat to it than that sweet vanilla uh, forward nose on it. You know what I mean? Carl says, "Yeah, we like Silver Star Texas honey liquor, small batches and can't find often. Tasty. That sounds good. I don't know that I've ever freaking heard of that. Silver Star Texas honey liqueur. I don't drink a lot of liqueur. Let's see here. Frank said, Tyler's the best. He's going to stay on for me, not you, Carl. We're going fly fishing when I just show up at his place unannounced. You're damn right, Frank. That goes for any of you guys. If you were to come out to Colorado, you have no idea. Now it would be a different ball game than like what you're typically accustomed to in terms of bass fishing. We probably would not go out on a boat onto a big lake, but we would do some pond hopping that is bass fishing, and we would definitely do some fly fishing at some streams and rivers here. I've got a specific private stretch of the Colorado River that almost nobody has access to. About 10 families total have access to this private stretch of the Colorado River that is fantastic fishing. So I'll take you there. Just saying. Ralph says, what BFS lures are you excited about? I know you're geeking over the new Z-Man microbaits. No, I'm not. I'm really not geeking over those baits. I was not as excited about those as I thought that I would be. But when it comes to BFS, I don't know that there's any one particular bait that I'm like most excited to throw. Um, I think the bigger baits that I'll throw are probably like some tiny swim jigs or some standard size Ned rigs or downsized Texas rigs. But I'm excited to throw tiny chatter baits and tiny swim baits, tiny jerk baits, and tiny top waters more than anything. So um, it's a little bit of everything. It's funny because there are a lot of different techniques that maybe I haven't gone fully in on because they would be dedicated specifically to a spinning setup. So, for example, throwing a Texas rig on a 1 or 2 aught hook is something that I don't do all that often. So, throw a 1/8 ounce bullet weight or a 1/16 ounce bullet weight and a very small Texas rig bait, somewhere in that ballpark of 3 inches. And yeah, I'm excited to do that more than anything. It's just throw really downsized presentations of stuff that I'm already doing. So Texas rigs, Ned rigs, swim jigs, chatterbaits, top waters, just all really small stuff. So sorry that that's not a direct answer to your question, Ralph, but I'm excited on the whole, dude. Adam, Russell's Reserve 10. I have tried it. I like it. I have no complaints, but it's also not necessarily like at the top of my list of something that I will always buy if I see it. It's relatively common around here, but yes, I am familiar with it for sure. Matt says, I really want to try that Evoke Zero. The noise it makes is really different. Or the Depths Udo, which is like a 160 millimeter size whopper plopper. That's kind of similar to the older plopper. Dude, I've never heard of the Depths Udo. What? I didn't know that they made the Evoke Zero and the Udo. That's weird. I knew about the Evoke Zero, right? I think everybody knows about that bait right now. It seems way overpriced for what it is. It's just unfortunate, right? I mean, with that metal blade, it's only a matter of time till that wears out. And it's a wire bait, you know. So I just don't see it being worth $50, but it definitely could get some mega bites depending on the size of the bait that you're using and the location that you're throwing the bait. Um, might make sense for some people, but I can't quite justify it myself. If it were $25, $30, I might try one. But at $50, it's a little steep for my liking. Carl says that their booze is $40 a bottle. Our friends ask us to bootleg it. That's funny. Um, yeah, well, so do you make it, Carl, or do you buy it? When you say $40 a bottle, are you selling it for 40 a bottle, or do you buy it for $40 a bottle locally or from somewhere else? Where do you get a hold of that booze? Well, Carl, I also wonder. I have no idea where your brother is, but I am um, just south of Denver. Okay, so I'm 20 minutes south of Denver. I'm about 2 hours east of most of the Rocky Mountains here in Colorado. Okay, so all the ski resorts here in Colorado are an hour and a half to 2 hours west of me, and that is the rough direction of where um, the property is that I have access to on the Colorado River. It is just south of where Lake Granby dams up. Okay, so if you were to hop on Google Maps and look up Lake Granby, Granby, in Colorado, you'll see that it's a big high alpine lake, and it feeds into Grand Lake north of it. But just south of it is where the Colorado River flows into it, and it dams up on the south side of the lake. So where that dam flows out below into the Colorado River is where our property is. And it is fantastic. So, okay, so your brother's in Fort Collins. That's about an hour north of me. So he's in a half hour to 45 minutes north of Denver, and I'm just on the south side of Denver. So we're about an hour apart. Matt says, Tyler, check the INX label. J-Boy finesse crank on the hookup. J-Boy finesse crank. Okay. You had a lot of success with it. It's pretty much a mini head and big bud. Oh, yeah. Okay. But you say it hunts like crazy, huh? Interesting. J-Boy finesse crank. This is one of those situations where I wish we were on StreamYard so that I could just pull this up and show you guys. But at the same time, not really, because the quality of this video is better than it would be if I was on StreamYard. So I don't know exactly how I feel about that. But Matt, I will look up that J-Boy finesse crank. Thank you for the advice. Good to know that you had a ton of success on it last year. You say it's 35 bucks in Japan. That's and a $20 markup to sell over here. Oh, the depths of Vogue is 35 in Japan and 55 over here. Huh. Okay. Well, if you can buy it for 30 or 35 bucks from Ichiban or one of those other places on the internet, then that might just be the way to do it. Carl says, buy it. It's just hard to find it. Okay, so you buy that uh, sweet honey liqueur for 40 bucks a bottle, but just can't find it enough. Now you say it's from Texas. Where do you live, Carl? I didn't think you were in Texas. I thought you were somewhere else in the South. Okay, Carl. I mean, not that it's funny to be working in pharmaceuticals, but um, yeah, that's fine. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to me. It's not like I would know him because he works in pharmaceuticals. Um, but interesting that your brother lives here in Colorado and not all that far away. Pretty cool. Yeah, if ever you go visit your brother, we could definitely meet up sometime. You're in Arkansas? Okay. What? Dry counties? Are you What do you mean, Carl? So you live in a dry county. What exactly does that mean? Is alcohol illegal in your county, or when you say dry, what do you mean? And now I see why you're laughing because your brother's a dispensary pharmacist. Yeah, that is funny. Um, nice one, Carl. Dry county, no liquor sales. Okay, so alcohol is not illegal, but you just can't buy it in your county. So how far do you have to drive to be able to buy booze? That's kind of wild. Um, I've never quite thought about that. Dry county. Huh. Yeah, they don't do that around here either. Chicken fried steak. Um, not quite sure. Well, yeah, seems weird. Yeah, Matt, you're right. It is pretty wild how some of the baits are so cheap to buy online from some of these JDM retailers that it feels like, well, why wouldn't you just make a business out of reselling these things at like a middle margin, right? Take for example this bait right here, right? Um, I don't even remember the exact numbers, but let's say rough numbers. This bait retails for 70 bucks in the US, and I bought it for 40 bucks from Asian Fishing Portal. Um, so I got a really good deal on it, right? Save 30 bucks, about 40% on it. So could I sell this bait for 50 bucks? Could I sell this bait for 60 bucks? Probably. So yeah, you could get away with doing that, is just buying a crap ton of baits from JDM retailers and then reselling them locally and undercutting Tackle Warehouse or the other big box stores that are selling fishing gear here in the US at standard US retail prices. Um, I'm sure that you could make a living doing that, is just having a massive inventory of JDM baits that you bought on the cheap. But Lure Slingers pretty much does that, huh? I don't know who that is, but you've thought about it. That's funny. I feel like you'd have to have a lot of money to get the ball rolling with that. You'd probably have to start out with like, 1,000 or 2,000 bucks, and very quickly flip that and start scaling to the point where you could actually make a living out of it, because you probably wouldn't be making all that much per bait. But when you think about like the margins that a store like the Hookup Tackle is making, it's probably not significantly better, because you'd be undercutting the hookup, right? In order to be able to sell baits in the first place. That would be kind of how you get your foot in the door, is by buying cheap and then undercutting the main stores so that people can find a better price and get faster shipping without having to go through an Asian fishing portal or an Ichiban, where they're paying an arm and a leg for the shipping, and sometimes getting it slowly. So that would be the play. And yeah, I mean, I've it's hard not to think about it when you buy a bait significantly cheaper from Japan than you can from the US. So I get it, dude. Car- Caro's got to drive an hour to get booze. What in the world, Caro? Wow, that's crazy. And Matt was saying you can get the Depths slide swimmer 250 for 90 bucks over in Japan, but over here it's 170. So that would be a perfect example of buy it for 90 and sell it for, 150, right? So you're making a hefty profit per bait, but still selling them cheaper than people would be able to buy here, for free shipping, what have you. You're incentivizing people to buy it from you, and yet you're still making 50+ dollars profit per bait. That could add up pretty quick. Carl says counties decide, or decided after prohibition, if they wanted booze. I miss having a margarita with dinner, but occasionally, um, or with a dinner out occasionally. Yeah, that absolutely sucks. So it's not just a liquor store, but nobody in the county can have a liquor license. Is that what you're saying? So you can't get beer, booze, cocktails, wine out at dinner, and there's no bars in your town? I mean, that blows my mind. There's no bars? What? Matt says, "Yeah, I was thinking maybe like 5K would be good to start." Yeah, sounds about right. Ralph, I had bought a number of things with the reel, so I don't remember for certain, but I think from Asian Fishing Portal, it is like 20 bucks shipping or something like that. So, I spent a few $100s. I bought this reel and then a handful of other baits as well, including this Gancraft Jointed Claw 178 and a couple of others. Um, maybe these Getting at Burrican swimmers. I can't remember if I got these there or if I got them from the hookup, but regardless, yeah, it's like 20 bucks, and that's exactly why I just mentioned what I did, is that, the business model of buying from Japan and incurring the shipping cost to get it to you so that others don't have to undergo that. They buy from you and then have quicker, more local shipping domestically, would be a draw for most customers, right? Because we are all pretty turned off by the high shipping fees when purchasing internationally. So, for that reason, we go out of our way to buy more things than just one so that we can justify the purchase and the shipping, um, where that wouldn't even be a thought for most people. If you just look online, see a depth slide swimmer 250 retails at 169 bucks at 5 different places, 10 different places, and they see it listed for 149 at your place and see that it's free shipping, um, you're gonna get sales. I mean, that's just a reality. Um, so yeah, I don't see any reason not to do that. It's just a matter of like how frequently can you keep stuff in stock, um, successfully. I don't know how solid of a long-term business model it actually is. Daniel says, think about how much you could have made on reels when the yen dropped if you had started, if you had the startup cash. Yeah, pretty crazy. You're right. It did drop. Insane. Cara says she fishes instead of drinks. All right, that's fair. Um, Not unless they have a special license can they sell alcohol. And here, that's only the country club. Ew, makes sense. That's funny. Yeah, Matt, I don't know how practical a business model is to sell spare spools. I've gone out of my way to buy a spare spool before for my quantum, I forget, quantum smoke S3 reel. There were like 2 or 3 years where that was my favorite reel by a long shot. So I went out of my way to buy a second one of them and then buy a spare spool as well. So, yeah, spare spools are awesome to have. I know that the hookup just talked about that in a video the other day, but I think that's still something that most people either aren't aware of or won't go out of their way to take advantage of. Um, that I don't know why this pops into my head, but the closest comparison that I have is with skiing. You use ski boots, right? They're plastic boots that wear out over the course of 5 to 10 years, depending on how much you're actually walking on concrete versus on snow with them. But you can replace a little plastic piece on the bottom of the heel and on the toe. Um, that will extend the life of those boots. Like, it'll double or triple the life of the boots by just buying an extra set of heel and toe pieces to unscrew and screw in when they start to wear out. Um, so a spare spool is something that is just overlooked by everybody. Um, it's an underrated thing, right? You can fill a spool with completely different line, and at any given time, you can cut off your bait, reel up that line, pop the spool out, pop a new one in, and you're good to go on the same setup. It's a huge deal, especially if you love the rod and reel combo that you got. So, yeah, underrated, but I don't think there's a huge market for it, if we're being honest, Matt. So, Adam, the rod that I got is the Dobbins Sierra in the Ultra Finesse. So this is the Dobbins Sierra 6'5", 6'5" Ultra Finesse casting. So this is a, come on, come on, focus for us. It's a light action. It says light moderate action, extra fast tip. So it's a light power, moderate action with a fast tip. Um, I'm excited about it. It's a short rod, but specifically got it so that I could tackle tight quarters, flipping, pitching, accurate casting. Um, and that's what I intend to do with this thing, as well as just throw really light stuff on it within relatively close quarters. I'm not trying to make long bomb casts with super light lures on a setup like this, at least for now, right? I'm not 100% sure whether I'm just gonna rig this uh, straight up with 4 pound Seagar and Bizex, or if I'm gonna go with more like a 5 to 10 pound braid, go Travis Manson on their asses with a super thin diameter braid, to then either 4 pound fluorocarbon or 4 pound monofilament, something like that. I'm gonna go very light with this setup, and I'm excited about it, no doubt. Oh, I'm behind. You guys are flying on the comments. I'm not mad about it. So I'm gonna skip some of these. Sorry, guys. Daniel says, Tyler, if you ever start hating any more of your custom blacks, let me know. Well, I'm glad to hear that you like the custom black. That is an awesome reel. It's a good rod too, man. Um, I've got one rod and two reels now, I think. Um, I hate to admit, I haven't said this to anybody this year yet, but one day while I was fishing, apparently I left one of my setups at the spot, and I didn't realize it until the next day. It was too late. So, um, one of my go-to setups, it was just a full combo, the loose TP1 black rod. It was like a 7.1 or 7.2, maybe it was a 7.3, medium heavy fast. So it was kind of like my do everything rod. And on it, I had a loose custom black. So it was just like if you were to buy the combo, that's like 240 bucks or whatever. Just left that at the pond, didn't realize it until a day later. That sucked. So I still have my jerkbait set up. It's like a 6.9 or 6.10 medium fast. Um, and I've got one or two of the custom black reels, and I do like them quite a lot. So, not surprised to hear that you like it. Jesus, Matt. There's a guy willing to pay 140 bucks for a spool on a megabass reel. Kind of crazy. Caro, your husband just got you a new SLX 150 HG. Nice. That's awesome. Good to hear. Dang. I love that you guys are flying in the comments. There's only 12 people in here tonight. It's a super casual, small group, but you guys are just active in the chat, and I appreciate that. Matt says, what pound line again on the reel, Tyler? So I'm going to throw either straight 4 pound fluorocarbon, Cigar and Vizex, or somewhere I'll probably go more like 10-pound braid. It's hard for me to wrap my head around and come to terms with the fact that Travis Manson uses like 5-pound braid. Um, but I am considering throwing very light or thin diameter braid on here because, as I've discussed, I can see myself throwing top water on this as well. So, in theory, if I had 10-pound braid as my main line, then I could switch between, you know, fluorocarbon and monofilament for my leader material. But the thing that makes me a little bit nervous on this guy is the size of the guides, which you're not going to be able to see very well. I'm pushing stuff off of here. But these guides are relatively small. They're not quite micro guides, but close. So I am nervous about an extra knot going through the guides. So I am kind of tempted to just throw it on straight fluorocarbon because there might only be one or two situations where I really need mono. So probably going to go with fluorocarbon on that. But Daniel, that sounds like a nice combo, dude. Chicken Fried Steak says, what would you guys and gals use? 7.2 medium heavy, extra fast rod 4. Flipping. I'd use it for Texas rigs. Use it for some lighter jigs. Use it for probably I mean, maybe some football heads or some swing heads. I mean, you can do so much with a setup like that. I mean, I don't prefer an extra fast necessarily on a medium heavy setup, but um, I wouldn't be so concerned with the extra fast tip. I just probably wouldn't throw a lot of moving baits or treble hook baits specifically on that, but you could throw, weedless swim baits really well on that. You could throw jigs and Texas rigs, um, all really well on a setup like that. But for the most part, everything. Matt says, Tyler, I would check out the Defier braid on the hookup. That stuff is great. Meant for BFS or very light fishing. Pretty sure the braid sinks as well. Really? Sinking braid, huh? I don't know that I've really heard about that all that much, but makes me curious. At least about like why or what it does, and gets the wheels turning a little bit in my brain, Matt. Hey, Carl, I've heard Canadians are nice too. Finders keepers, Daniel. Yeah, chicken fried steak. I wouldn't be too worried about the extra fast portion of it. Um, theoretically, you could also throw like a heavier or medium diving jerk bait, something of the sort, something that you're going to want. And same goes for a top water, right? Something that's got a little bit more weight to it, where the medium heavy is going to do you some work, but then where that extra fast tip is going to respond quickly for you. The only issue is that you got those treble hooks on it, so um, yeah, I don't throw an extra fast tip a lot, but usually it is um, bottom bouncing baits for the most part. Michael Romero in the house. What's up, Michael? Sorry I didn't greet you already, dude. Um, you say you would go with the Daiwa J Braid. J Braid Grand. Okay. Um, Specifically for BFS or just in general, Michael? Why do you mention or recommend that braid specifically? Matt says it's supposedly meant for spinning, that Defier braid, but that's part of a gimmick. It's supposed to have less memory. Okay, yeah, sure. No, it definitely would work on a BFS setup. I agree. I don't see why it wouldn't. Caro, what? You've been catching rods at the bottom of your pond? That's pretty cool. Whew, that's so good, guys. I can't stop. I'm gonna have just a little bit more, and then we're getting out of here. All right. It's so tasty. 100 proof is probably like the sweet spot. It's drinkable, and yet it's not too harsh. That's the first sip of water I've had all stream. Um, I've been great on just whiskey, and I'm drinking this neat right now. No ice, no problem. 100 proof, and it's delicious. Oh, the chatterbait. Rod PB. What? Caro has caught 6 rods over the last 5 years. Unfortunately, Shakespeare's and Zebco's. Dang, that's pretty wild. Um, What are you throwing to be catching rods like that, Carl? That is funny. You know, I don't think I've caught a rod ever. I don't think I've brought in a rod and reel. bless me, bless me. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Ralph says, "What trailer are you going to be using on the micro chatter?" Good question, dude. We talked about this um, a little bit recently. There are few a few specific baits that I like on the micro chatter baits, and not a lot of them. Okay. And as is the case in a lot of situations, for me, I'm going Z-Man. Of course, there are other options, but for me, the Z-Man 3-inch minnows is kind of hard to beat. Okay, this is a little bit big for a true micro chatterbait. So if we're talking the flashback mini like this one, this is going to be a little bit small for what we're talking about, right? So you'll notice the hook is way up on this bait. So on the whole, with the skirt, this works okay, but it's a little bit small of a hook for the bait. So that's about as big as I go. And then from there, I will downsize. I mean, the 3-inch minnows, I can't say enough good things about this bait. It's fat, it has a lot of presence, has a lot of tail kick, and it also has it's flush so that you can fit a jig head up there straight on the nose, but it also has this weed guard so that you can tuck a hook right in there if you're throwing this weedless. Underrated bait is the Z-Man minnows. And I know I talk about that, but I probably won't stop. I'm not sponsored by Z-Man, so there's really no reason for me to talk them up other than the fact that it's a good bait. Okay. Second one that's solid is the Slim Swims. They make this in a 2.5-inch version. This is the 3, but it's a very different profile than what you get out of the minnows. This is a flat back and a narrow body. So this, is your Kitech Easy Shiner compared to your Kitech Swing Impact Fat, if you will. Does that analogy make sense to you? In that this is just like the flat side version of the swim bait. But look at how flawless of a matchup this guy right here is. I mean, for whatever reason that's not focusing for you, there you go. That right there is about as good as it gets. And you get a nice wide kick out of this Slim Swims, so it's going to play a little bit more like a traditional straight tail than a traditional boot tail swim bait. And the Slim Swims, I would say, is underrated, not talked about enough. And then lastly is the baby goats, or goat rather. This is just a different profile for depending on how you want to swim the bait. So 9 times out of 10, I'm rigging this thing sideways and I'm rigging it like it's a craw. Okay. So I'll show you real quick just what this puppy looks like when it's rigged up like a craw. right? You'll split these tails, and they will kick. They'll cause the bait to rise just a little bit, and they will give this bait a much more aggressive action that is kicking like so. Whereas you can rig the baby goat sideways so that it kicks like this instead of like this. So you get a totally different action out of the bait. You can rig it sideways, but I usually rig it standard like a crawdad, like it's this way as opposed to this way. Does that make sense? So those are probably three of the main ones that that I do throw on a frequent basis. I've learned over time that with baits like a chatterbait or a swim jig, I would prefer to be fishing the same bait until I hang it up and lose it than I would be to fish the bait and run through a bunch of trailers. Um, so yeah, I've gone the way of Z-Man for a while now. Another good option in that small size uh, is the Finesse Shads by Z-Man. And it's a longer bait, but can fit on this presentation really well. So let me try and find one of those real quick for you. What? Where they at though? I can't believe I don't have them. I don't know where they at. I've got a couple other boxes of drop shot baits, but I feel like I've got to have these puppies sitting close by. All right, these are drop shot baits. A lot of them. Here's the Finesse Shads. What? All right, so here is the Finesse Shads. This is a 4-inch bait, so it does a little bit better on a drop shot and as a standard chatterbait trailer, but this is a straight tail. All right, so you can cut this body down a little bit, or you can even leave it as is, and it's an insanely long chatterbait trailer. If we don't cut this down at all, let me show you what we're looking at. So you can see that's a long trailer on a little bait, but not insane because it's pretty much all tail. So this thing's going to collapse immediately. But the Finesse Shads is an underrated bait by Z-Man. Okay. Is it cuttable? Absolutely, dude. So let me just show you. I don't have any scissors down here, but I'll use my knife. All right. So I did it right on the table, which isn't ideal, but yeah, I just cut off, that much of the body. Not a flush setup by any means, but, and again, this is the Z-Man Flashback Mini Chatterbait that I've gone ahead and hand tied a very thin skirt onto using some wire. So you don't get the entire hook shank that you would ordinarily with this homemade jig. normally this would be naked, okay? So let me show you what this looks like. Threaded up on there. So Ralph, that's probably right at like one of my top choices. If you're looking for just like a straight tail dead action type of bait, that finesse shads, you saw I just cut off about an inch of it. And that was it. Okay. 4-inch bait becomes a 3-inch bait that's mostly a straight tail as a chatterbait trailer on this little guy. And that's going to be perhaps the most intriguing or exotic action that you can get. So, yeah, man. Chicken fried steak. Dude, you don't need to be jealous about other people's combos. Don't worry about that. Dude, Michael Romero, why do you keep retracting your comments, dude? What's going on? Ralph says, yeah, I'm going to go Slim Swims. Okay. Yeah, either one is awesome, dude. Dude, don't worry about it. I've got a million of them. In fact, I keep these double stacked. But just so you know, I keep the finesse shads in 1, 2, 3, at least 3 colors at all times. And you know, here I've got June bug, green pumpkin, and then this the deal. And the pack in the deal, I've got like double or triple bagged. I've got a whole bunch in there, so don't worry about it, man. I'm happy to show you the bait because you should be using it. It's got a lot of action to it, and doesn't get enough attention. I'll say that. The other bait that can work really well on this same presentation that I didn't mention, I'll go ahead and show you this rigged up right now, is the Streaks 3.75 inch. So this is a fluke style bait made by Z-Man. So exactly what you would expect it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this finesse shads off of here and show you guys from a size standpoint to where I cut that down. It's pretty similar right now. So you'll notice when I rig this on, it's going to be a little bit long, but not overly so. You might want to trim this down upwards of a 1/2 inch. But really, a fluke style bait, it makes one of the best chatterbait trailers, period. And the Streaks 375 or the Strike King Baby Z2, they call it, is the same thing. Z-Man pours the Baby Z2. It is the same profile, just comes in different colors and has a little bit of salt in it. So the Streaks 375 has no salt in it and comes in Z-Man standard colors. But the Strike King Baby Z2 is poured by Z-Man, made from Elastec, but has some salt in it, and just is different. It's a floating bait, or the Baby Z2 is like a suspending bait. It maybe even a slow sink bait. It is not not the same as what you get out of this Streaks 375 from Z-Man, but both are awesome on the back of a chatterbait because they're made from Elastec have that durability, but also the profile and action that you want out of a fluke style bait. Okay, so do consider the Streaks or the Baby Z2 as well. Daniel, the Jerk is made by Z-Man. I'm not sure, but okay, Jerk Shads. No, the Jerk Shads is a scented bait made for saltwater. But yes, it's essentially the same profile, just upsized and scented with Procure. Okay, I think that's what the Jerk Shads is, but same deal. Ralph says the small jackal rhythm shad was good for me, rigged upside down. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. The rhythm wave is a really good bait. Where do I got him sitting? Right there. I like the rhythm wave as well. You know, it's been hard for me to find like a true sweet spot for like exactly when and where I want to throw the bait, but it's a good one for sure. Show some more of them drop shot baits in the box. Sure. There's a lot of baits in here. All right, so up front, I actually have the bait I was just talking about. So got a couple packs of the Strike King Baby Z2. Okay. So this bait is the same as what I was just showing you from a profile standpoint. However, this guy, as you stretch it out, the salt comes out of this thing. So this bait starts to not only look a little bit more cloudy and more natural, but it starts to suspend and starts to sink and have a different action than it does straight out of the pack. So this is an interesting thing that I think a lot of people overlook or don't even quite realize is the case with Z-Man baits, is that a lot of Z-Man baits actually do have some salt in them, and are best utilized when they're stretched out. So like Ned rig baits, for example, the Z-Man TRD is a super stretchy bait. Where was I just looking at them? Here, let me show you. The Finesse TRD. All right, so here's the bait straight out of the pack, right? It's like a green pumpkin orange. Looks like this one's already been stretched out. All right, let me show you. Here we go. Orange, green. Okay, this is a tight bait. Tight. But as we start to stretch this out, watch what happens. You can see the salt falling out in front of the camera. But watch what happens when all of a sudden come on, camera. So I'm going to stretch this all the way out. Wow, you can't hear that, but there's salt falling out of this bait. Look at this now. Okay. Do you see the salt all over this bait? That's just from me stretching this out. The salt comes out of the bait. So then you're going to rig it, and all of a sudden, with the salt out of this bait, this thing is going to stand up like a dream, and it's going to be more durable and have more action to it all of a sudden, this little bait that was limp a second ago has all this action and is a bait that I can squeeze quite a bit more easily because the salt has come out of it. It's not nearly as stiff as it was. It's more buoyant. So those things matter, okay? And they factor in. So specifically in the case of the Baby Z2 versus the Streaks 375, that's one big thing that comes into play. So I've got that bait. I've got the Yamamoto, the new 3-inch shad shape worms. I'm pumped to be throwing these on a drop shot this upcoming year. Little 3-inch shad shaped worm. Got a couple packs of those. Got the old 4-inch shad shaped worms. Those have been a staple for me. Got some of the Netbait Bait Fuel crush worms. And the flat-sided shads. Got some Zoom Z-Drop baits. These are kind of underrated. Most people don't talk about the Z-Drop. This is a flat-sided, flat-bottom drop shot bait. Perfectly round top. And then it's kind of like a jackal crosstail shad in terms of what you get with the tail. But this is the Zoom Z-Drop. I do throw it. Don't talk about it a lot. I do throw the jackal crosstail shad, which I was just talking about. Got the robo worm in the 4-inch alive shad. A little bit more of a shad profile than like the robo worm, you know, the fat or the finesse, just shad worm profiles. Got some Z-Man leeches in here, as well as those streaks and the finesse shads that I talked about. And I've also got some TRD minnows in there. And then we've got some X-Zone finesse slammers and some hot shot minnows. We've got some big bite baits, smallie smashers, some Maxent D worms and some hit worms and some generals and some flat worms and even some little troopers, and then some Berkeley straight money and some Berkeley water bugs and some Strike King half shells. So there's kind of a lot of stuff in here. These are not all of the drop shot baits that I throw, but they're a lot of my go-tos. So yeah, no problem. Chicken fried steak. That's just some of my kind of go-to drop shot baits. So glad that you like seeing it. No problem, dude. Daniel, the Rhythm Wag. It's funny that you say that because I literally had it sitting in the side of this box right here. That was the one bait out of this whole box that I did not mention. That's funny. Bruce. You know what, Bruce? Bruce, we'll shoot this and get out of here in a second, all right? Yeah, no worries. Michael, I'm on your TV right now. I should scoot back and zoom out so that I don't look so big on your TV. That's funny though. No worries. It's like a Senko with all that salt. You're right, Michael. It is. It's crazy how much salt can come out of these Z-Man baits. You assume they don't have any in them, but turns out a lot of them do. Some of them have none, but a lot of them do have some salt in. You know what, Daniel? It's a good bait, but it's not necessarily the reason why. Okay, guys, I do have to pee. All of a sudden, I'm getting out of here. Carl, you stayed up later than Matthew. You stayed up later than who was it? Bruce that just ran out of here like that. But guys, hey, listen. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight. 2.5 hours is a really long stream, especially for me. So I appreciate it. Only like 10 of us hanging out in here tonight. Super fun. Thank you for the good company. Happy New Year's. Appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of your night. See you guys soon. Peace.